Welcome back to another episode of Smart Money Moves Fresh Minds. I'm Wesley.
I'm Joe.
We have a couple questions today. We're doing something different. I'm going to ask Joe a couple questions. He's going to answer. And on the next episode, we're going to switch it up and Joe's going to ask me some questions. So without further ado, we'll get started.
It's also more of like a Q&A. So whoever's listening to this and who has questions that come up, feel free to comment any questions below or reach out to us directly, and we'll hit those next on the next episode.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do a Q&A episode with some questions that you guys have. So drop them in the comments or reach out to us directly and we'd be happy to answer those questions. You know, risk management and insurance is super, super important. What are some risks and plans that you made for clients that really concern you the most at the end of the day? What are some common themes that you've seen?
No, I would say especially with young business owners, especially just young people in general, really married couple, or you have a young married couple of kids. A lot of them don't have disability insurance. I would say that's a big driver. You know, you're young, you got to protect your income. That's your biggest asset right now. You got to protect your income for the long term. Disability income definitely is huge for people who don't have it. And that's a common theme is you have someone that come in and they don't have it. Potentially people don't have the right covered life insurance, or, you know, they might have been sold life insurance in the past and they're paying in an excessive premium that they should be paying. And they don't need that much. I would say that we had retirees come in when they have a lot of assets that are not in qualified plans. So what I mean by that is they have a brokerage account. Let's say the brokerage account is $1 million and they don't have an umbrella policy. If they were, driving down Rehoboth Avenue and they hit someone, they could potentially be sued. And that brokerage account, that $1 million, the brokerage account could be brought up and could be subject to liability. That being said, if they have an umbrella policy, say $1 million umbrella policy, and they have the underlying coverages being targeted, they get to have that protected. That being said, say a lot of people's assets are covered in their retirement plans. Your retirement plans are protected from liability. Say you work for Hershey's and you get 401k there, that's protected from liability. That's just some common themes I've seen. Like I said, everyone's situation is different, but definitely for younger people with disability, and then married couples, younger, especially married, having the right covered life insurance. And also looking at the spouse, you say that you have a stay-at-home mom, probably the stay-at-home mom is the most important job. And, she has a minimal, life insurance policy covered. Well, who takes care of the kids if you're the primary breadwinner,
Right. What's the cost of that child care if she were to pass? Yeah.
All that is in play. So that's just some common things I've seen.
Awesome. Definitely important stuff there. It's easy, in day-to-day life as, everybody's busy. Certain things get overlooked. And we've been in client meetings, and I know with Ken, he's reviewed a file and got right on the phone, called the client, said, hey, you need an umbrella policy, contact your insurance provider right now. Because it's just that important that you need to, because God forbid something happens, that game over, for in some situations.
We're trying to sell property casualty or not, we're trying to get them connected with a property casualty agent, which gets them the right coverage, because they don't have the right coverage, it blows up everything in the plan.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. Switching over to also protecting what you have when you pass with estate and legacy planning. Why is it so important that we connect and coordinate with attorneys for wills and trusts, powers and attorneys, things along those lines?
I think estate planning is probably one of the most overlooked. It can be dry, it can be boring. You don't want to talk about it.
It's easy to procrastinate.
Easy to procrastinate, but it can really derail, especially if you have heirs, the tax situation, legality issues that come up. One thing I learned through my CFP coursework was everyone's nice until money's involved. And, we see it day to day. It couldn't be more true. You think your niece or nephews or uncle was the nicest person until they see a big lot of money at the end of the trail. So we coordinate with, estate attorneys. We try and not do the plan, but we try to just get bits and pieces of what people currently have. Say, hey, this is what you might be looking for when we referred you to an estate attorney. And we just try to make the conversation as easy as possible. It's not always easy, especially when you're talking about estate planning. And then from there, we'll just, shoot an email over an estate attorney that we work with. We all, background, we work with multiple. I think that's been great. We get to pick different bits and pieces, get people's different opinions, and we just have them establish a relationship with the attorney, and then review it every 3 years. Like I said, if some major event happens and you want to review it right away, I would say typically, every 3 years, it shouldn't just be set and forget it, one time thing and then review it 15 years later. A lot of stuff happens 15 years, 10 years, 5 years. So that's kind of like probably my talking point there.
Yeah. As far as communication goes, we kind of touched on it, but what can people expect? What can clients expect as far as how often meetings will occur? But more important that we already touched on, but what will review meetings consist of in a nutshell?
Like I said, goes back to the client. You want to establish that engagement at the time of your first meeting of what they want to meet. It could be a phone call, could be, meeting in person twice a year, say June and then December. It could be meeting every quarter, could be meeting just once a year. I mean, you just try to establish it there. Any major life event, don't be hesitant to call in and gotta get something scheduled. I get something scheduled because you're our priority. We got to put ourselves in your shoes. And then from then, review meetings are fairly simple. We talk about, maybe look about performance. We try to see, hey, what's changed, any new goals for the year. It's 2026. What goals you want to establish, you want to hit by the end of this year, or even maybe a 2-year goal. Say, for example, you have a young couple and their 2026 goal was having a sinking fund, just make it a brokerage account, having treasuries and, earn some interest on it, but use that money for, their wedding fund. All right. Hit the wedding fund. All right. The wedding's done. They come back in for the review. What's a new goal they want to hit? Maybe it's establishing, better budgeting or cash flow management and targeting, let's have $20,000 or down payment at home. All right. That's the next goal. So I would say that you try to talk about goals, it's more so chitter chatter, it's relationships at the end of the day. So maybe 10, 15 minutes of meetings, it's just talking and just, seeing them again. And then we talk here and there, but I think that first year is the most important time for the relationship, honestly, in my opinion.
People listening at home may say, "Oh, I don't need this advice or I don't need this service." Who's your typical client, Joe? Who's your typical client and people that you do work with?
I work with pre-retirees to people that are already retired, to pilots. I come from a family of pilots, so that's kind of been like my niche. Looking at their retirement plans with, say United, Southwest, Delta. Some of them might be in the private sector, different types of plans. A lot of them have, especially United and actually Southwest have many, many deferred comp plans for their highly competent employees that the pilots just don't even know about. The captains first, especially the captains, you have no idea what this stuff is. I would also say, maybe I've been trying, the business owners been great, especially young, people that haven't edged themselves, want to get small business up and running. That's been great, getting their account set up, cash flow, managing that. But I would say, yeah, my probably ideal client. I mean, I love work with anybody, especially if you're, a workaholic like me and, have some drive and you want to have especially a long-term relationship. I'm nothing about short-term. I want a relationship for the next 20, 25 years. I really like working with people just who are motivated, hungry. Ideal client who, like I said, come from a family of pilots, pre-retirees, retirees, and any young business owner or small business that is up and running that needs help.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you for spending some time with us today. This was great. We're getting the podcast rolling again. Kind of went through the financial planning process in a nutshell, giving people more insight into what we do and what to expect and the benefits of going through the process, because it is a little tedious. It's can be time consuming sometimes, but the benefits definitely outweigh the time commitment there. Anything else you want to add?
I would just say if anyone's listening to this podcast and you have a parent, aunt, uncle that does everything themselves, and let's say they're mid 50s to early 60s to late 60s, I would say it's time for them to start bringing in their nieces, nephews, sons, daughters, and on those plans, start coordinating it, because potentially where your money's going. It's going to your kids. So make sure that your plan is in place, that you've ticked all the boxes. At least talk to a financial planner. If not us, talk to someone in the area. Or if you're all throughout the country, talk to as many financial planners that fit your needs and fit your personality, because you're not just derailing your plan. If by not talking to someone, you're derailing your heirs and potentially those who are then living after you. One more dollar that's saved and not going to IRS, you're more happy and your heirs are happy. There's different strategies there. I would just say start bringing in those people in on your meetings. It's great to have those conversations, because, like I said, one little bump in the road, a plan could be derailed, and the people after you that have to take care of that plan might not know where to start or who to talk to.
Definitely. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. It's been a great episode. We'll see you guys next week.